Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's lesson, I'm going to share with you a short excerpt from my fretboard memorization course that's on my website. This course goes along with my guitar flashcards that I sell, but you don't need the cards in order to understand this lesson. Anyway, this is going to be a quick one on the introduction to notes on the guitar. And if you're interested in the course or the flashcards, I'll put a link below. I hope you guys enjoy this. So now, I want to recommend that you try to learn the E, A, and possibly D strings if you can. At least the E and A, because that's where all your root notes appear when you're playing power chords and bar chords. Gotta know those. It's just gonna help you communicate to other players. It's going to help you understand music theory stronger and deeper. And it's just one of those things that players avoid this for years, just learning the notes. And if you're not like a complete beginner, then you have to start getting this under your fingers and into your brain. That's the whole reason this deck that I created is designed to help you do, to just cold memorization of those notes. You have to be able to know if somebody says B, 7th fret of the 1st string, 2nd fret of the A string, 9th fret of the D string. You have to know that right off the top of your head and be able to get there immediately. Notes on the guitar. So first I want to say that learning the notes on the guitar is far harder than any other instrument. Simply because we have 6 strings and every string is tuned differently. And the ones that are tuned the same, the 2 E strings, aren't even next to each other. They're on different ends of the guitar. So right off the bat, we're at a disadvantage. I always tell my students, memorizing the notes and playing guitar just in general is like playing 6 instruments at once. There's a lot to think about, and this is one of the reasons people tend to avoid this process for so long. That said, we're going to look at the strings independently. We're going to start with the low E string, just as a reference point to get kind of into this whole notes in music and notes on the guitar kind of thing. So our first step is that we need to know what natural notes, sharps, and flats are. We're going to start with the natural notes. There are 7 natural notes in music. Those 7 natural notes are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. After that, the cycle just keeps repeating itself. A, B, C, D, F, G, A, B, C, D, F, G, and so forth until you run out of frets. Every natural note can be altered into either a sharp form by raising it a half step or a flat form by lowering it a half step. An example would be A natural. So I'll just tell you, A natural is on the 5th fret of the low E string. If I want to find A flat, I just lower it a half step to the 4th fret, and that would give me an A flat. If I go back to A natural on fret 5, and I want to get to A sharp, I raise it a half step to fret 6, and that'll give me A sharp. So I always tell my students, think flat is like a flat tire. Your tire goes lower, the note's going to go lower. Sharp, you're raising it up. So flat's lowering, sharp's raising it. If you look at all the notes, right, every natural note we have technically is going to have 3 options name-wise. It could either be a natural, A flat, A sharp, right? You could have F natural, F sharp, F flat, okay? Every natural note you have also could have a sharp or flat form of it. Now let's go back and talk about the natural notes for a little bit. We need to learn how to count the distances between the natural notes using either whole steps or half steps. So what's a whole step? What's a half step? Basically, our fretboard is designed in half steps. So every fret from one to the next is a half step apart, right? So if I went from fret 5 to 6, it's a half step. If I went from fret 0 to 1, that's a half step. 1 to 2 is a half step. 2 to 3 is a half step. If you skip 1 fret, you're getting a whole step. So if I go to A, or the 5th fret on the low E string, 5 to 7 is a whole step. O to 2 is a whole step. Okay? 1 to 3 is a whole step. So you always have that space in between the 2 notes for a whole step, and there's no spaces in between for a half step. Now, when you're dealing with the natural notes, you have to learn where the half steps and whole steps are. I'm going to tell you where the half steps and whole steps occur. So from A to B is a whole step. From B to C is a half step. C to D is a whole step. D to E is a whole step. E to F is a half step. F to G is a whole step. And then G back to A is a whole step. Now, when you look at that written down there, you're going to see that there's only 2 spots where there's a half step. It's between B and C and E and F. You want to make a mental note of this. I usually tell my students, blue cheese makes elephants fart. And that is a saying that a friend of mine who's also a teacher that he uses with his students, and most people tend to remember that. Blue cheese makes elephants fart. So your half steps are between B and C and E and F. All the other natural notes have a whole step between them. Let's look at our E string and see how this would apply on our guitar. All right, so now we got the open E string. Remember, blue cheese makes elephants fart. So E, elephants. E to F is going to be a half step. 0 to 1 is E to F. E is open, 1 is F. F to G, whole step. So from 1 to 3 is F to G. G to A is a whole step. So from 3 to 5 is the whole step, G to A. A to B, 5 to 7, whole step. A to B is a whole step. Now from B to C, blue cheese. B is 7, C is 8. That's your half step. Now C to D, whole step. 8 to 10 is your C to D. And then D back to E is going to be a whole step. So 10 to 12 is your whole step. So all the way through it's going to go 0, 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, 12. In notes, that's E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Okay. Now, let's, for another example, do the A string, right? So if A is our starting point, from A to B is a whole step. So that means we need to go from 0 to 2. So from A to B is 0 to 2. And then from B to C is a half step. So that's going to go from fret 2 to fret 3. C to D is a whole step. So 3 to 5. D to E is a whole step. So from 5 to 7. E to F is a half step. So from 7 to 8. F to G is a whole step. So from 8 to 10. And then G to A is a whole step, so from 10 to 12. That'll bring us back to our starting point. I usually recommend you guys learn from 0 to 12 first. Don't worry about the higher end yet because it's just a lot to cover and you want to take this in like bite-sized pieces. So you want to learn the natural notes just on the first string first, then you're going to try to get the second string and the third string and so forth until you cover them all. But you take it a piece at a time.